Welcome to Kako Vision, a podcast to pump you up to change the world. Hosted by me, Jordana. Let's get started. In this episode of Kako Vision, I'm going to talk about the why behind Kako. After the intro series, I'm going to switch this podcast and it's going to talk about certain topics. So the first week, we're going to talk about corruption and billionaire greed and how much $1 billion actually is. It is a whole lot more than you can even imagine. And we'll hear from guests who have either written resources on the areas or have personal experiences, or somebody that I know that helped show me how it impacted them. So those episodes will be different. This intro series, it's personal. I found out after I was married for multiple years that my ex had an addiction to prescription medication. Addiction is really a wicked beast. And I don't blame the addict. And anybody who has seen Dopesick probably agrees. And anybody who hasn't seen Dopesick, please go watch Dopesick. In November of 2016, the writing was on the wall that my ex had relapsed. And I was always going to do what was in the best interest of my kids. And for the longest time, I thought that was staying in a loveless marriage. I don't know why, looking back on it, why I thought that was a good idea. But addiction is really, it's tough on relationships and it destroys trust. And our marriage was done long before that. Remember, I had just got him a brand new Jeep. Now, my mom worked for General Motors for the longest time. Like, I have never paid full amount for any vehicle. And I obviously didn't pay full amount for that. But I remember it was the biggest purchase, aside from a house, that I'd ever made. Before I even made the first payment, he wrapped it around a tree, 3 o'clock in the morning, driving drunk. That was a week after I told him that we were getting divorced. And actually, no, I didn't tell him. He read my email when I was asking my cousin if he wanted to move in and become a nanny or a manny for the boys, which he did. And he is absolutely amazing and has just been a perfect addition to our house. And so he was living in East Bumfuck, PA, and was gay and was just kind of fish out of water. I don't know. I always thought of him as a fish out of water there. And so I asked him if he wanted to move in and go to college. And so now he's actually about to graduate from Kane University with an interior design degree. Congratulations. The end of 2016, the beginning of 2017 was just a crazy time in my life. My marriage was ending. Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump, and I was furious. I didn't understand what was going on. And somewhere along the way, social media had become toxic. I was waking up in the middle of the night frustrated. And I felt very full of rage and anger. Meditation was really hard initially. And it still can be hard. But when I can do it, it's like a light switch. It's like my brain is either on or off. And if I can shut my brain off for a little while, that's when the magic happens. That's when the solutions to your problems come about. And people who are familiar with meditating and who are used to it, you guys know what I'm talking about. Then it's just, do you have the will to follow whatever it is that you know is the right direction? When I meditated, it became clear that I needed to refocus this energy. For me, that meant I needed to understand what was causing the hate and the divide. Like, let me just understand it, because then at least I'm taking that negative energy. I'm not getting into these Facebook fights anymore. I'm going to focus on what's causing it. And it became clear so early on that while I was focused on my family and my life and my career, and that was going great, things weren't going great for everyone else. And life was becoming so hard for so many people that it was starting to affect our lifespan. And each younger cohort, it was getting worse. I wasn't okay with this. I looked at my 6-year-old at the time, spitting image of his dad, who idolizes his dad, and I'm not okay with it. We need to start doing something about it. And so that was the next thing, like what's being done? And nothing is being done that hasn't been tried for the last 2 decades. We're depending 100% on political remedies when our government is broken. Our government is working for special interest and for billionaires. And you'll see that in the first episode. This doesn't have anything to do with Democrat or Republican. This has to do with billions. Billions. This isn't even talking about millionaires. This is talking about billionaires. Look, billionaires should not exist. If billionaires did not exist, we would be in a completely different situation. Our structure, our capitalistic model, while it's good for certain things, it is not good for society at large. The way that we have structured the gains and how management has a fiduciary duty to investors of companies, and how the key decision makers generally have huge chunks of investment in the company, meaning that they are making the decisions in the best interest of themselves, their family, and the investors of their company, not society. That is not their objective. And unless it is the objective of an organization, it's not going to happen. And so Kako is about coming together and using technology purposefully and using it to connect a group of people who want to create a better way. Since this podcast is new, we have no sponsors, so I will shamelessly plug Kako. And if you get sick of hearing this, then reach out to become a sponsor. And if you think I'm crazy and must be smoking the good shit, check out NJ Canamama.
Kako, the social app. K-A-K-O. Kako, the social app. K-A-K-O. Kako, the social app. Kako rules. Kako, the social app. Billionaire greed. Kako, the social app. Destroying America. Kako, the social app. T-minus 7 years and counting. Kako, the social app.
And with that, let's get back to the show. Well, the Kako journey really started about 5 years ago. The real beginning was long before that. This story starts with me always wanting to be a mom. That was the only thing that I knew for sure. When I was growing up, teachers would ask, guidance counselors would ask, and I felt like John Lennon, there was a John Lennon quote where a teacher asked him what he wanted to be when he grew up. And he said, happy. And the teacher said, you don't understand the question. John Lennon said, you don't understand life. And that's what I felt. It's like, I just wanted to be a mom. And any career that I had was to support that family. It didn't matter what the career was. And I still wasn't prepared for it. I tell Chase, he is the reason I believe in love at first sight. I can't even describe it. I thought I knew love at first sight. I loved my niece from the moment I met her, and that was definitely love at first sight. But this was something so powerful, it scared me. And I was not expecting that. And I remember the first year of his life, he was really colicky. And I remember I would be singing to him crying, me crying. He always had this look like he wasn't sure if he trusted that I knew what I was doing. It was always kind of like this nervous look about him. But once he hit 12, 18 months, he was just so happy, all smiles, and was attached to my hip. We were inseparable. And he's just an amazing little man. They would call him Mr. Mayor at his preschool. Just he is the type of kid that is like the mediator and the peacemaker. He doesn't want any conflict, and he doesn't want anybody to feel left out. He had a classmate that moved from Japan and didn't know English. And so Chase downloaded Duolingo to learn some of the basics, just to be able to communicate with this classmate. And that's just the kind of kid he is. He would do anything for anybody in need. And it's one of the things that I love about him. It's one of the things that I loved about his father, and one of the things that made me fall in love with him. Cooper was the complete opposite. Cooper was the happiest baby, all smiles, and he ate well, he slept well, he babbled happily. He was just the easiest baby. I knew I was in trouble. It got to about 18 months and he wasn't hitting his language milestones. And we got him evaluated first by the state. And with the state, I had to calculate the percentiles because, well, first of all, they showed up 2 hours late and he didn't have a nap, and he has a communication disorder diagnosed later. So he didn't understand what they were asking of him, but his percentiles were off the chart low. And I remember that it was just a very difficult few years because communication is so important. I think a lot of the terrible twos and terrible threes are really just because these kids want us to hear them and understand them. They're becoming little people. And Cooper couldn't communicate and couldn't understand what we were expecting from him. And it made the next few years really, really difficult. I remember my uncle, who is just an incredibly smart guy and was also a late talker. He gave me the most comforting words that still stay with me to this day. He said, Cooper's not going to have a normal path, and that's okay. He said, there's way too much normal in this world. And you know what? He is absolutely right. I love that Cooper has a different path. I hate that he has to struggle with language because I feel like I struggle with language. And I know how that interweaves in everything, and how if you don't have confidence in that area, it's really hard to be successful. But he has he's worked so hard and has gotten so far. It is amazing. It truly is. Anybody who has seen his progression is just truly amazed. But he was completely independent. He, because of probably the difficulty with language, it's like if he wanted something, he was just climbing up to go get it. He could get out of any of the child safety locks, and that presented a whole other set of challenges with him during that period. And that period lasted for a few years. That period basically lasted from 18 months to probably like 4.5, 5.5. But he is hysterical. He cracks me up every day. He tells me I'm beautiful, and then tells me I have bags under my eyes and that I look tired. But he is my little mini me. He wants things to be fair. He's an introvert, but he will talk your ear off if you get him going. He's selective with who he spends his time with. And if he gives you a compliment, he means it. He has this raw honesty to him that I find refreshing. My ex found it more difficult when the kids were really young, until they started interacting with him more. It's like, for me, I could just watch them babble and explore the world on their level for hours. It was much harder for him. He wanted to take Chase out on a quad, get him a Red Ryder BB gun when he was like 4 or 5. But because of that, and because Chase was getting to an age where he was more interactive by the time Cooper was born, because Chase is 3 years older than Cooper, and because Cooper's language development really kept him in a stage that was difficult and definitely tested some patience. And during that time, Chase and Jeff just got so close. They're like thick as thieves now. And I definitely lost my mama's boy, which makes me sad. My boys, while completely different, are my everything. They're my sun, my moon, and all my stars. I would do anything for them. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. And they're my reason. My kids are my reason. My nieces are my reason. The next generation is my reason, because they don't deserve this. And everybody should have a reason for why we want to turn this around, even if it's just for yourself, because you deserve better. During COVID, I made what I consider a 21st century mixtape. So I put pictures to songs, and I'm going to share the ones for my family, at least in my household. And you can kind of get a sense of the personalities by these videos. So Chase, much more outdoorsy and, more serious, quiet. He is an extrovert. He's very much an extrovert. And then Cooper is, usually on top of me, messing up my hair, and always just a ball of energy and comedy. And then Anthony's is just, you'll just have to check out his. I think his might be my favorite. One thing I need to point out here: these videos are all happy, smiling kids, and these are our best days. But these are not our only days. And I think that one of the problems with social media is that we get a false sense of inferiority. We think that everybody else's life is so much better, but they're only showing us their best days. And lately there's been a lot of days that have not fallen into this category. I'm going to introduce my parents in a later episode, but they are amazing for so many reasons outside of the obvious. I would not be here if it was not for them. I'm lucky enough not to be the only outspoken person in my family. Doing what's right and speaking up on important issues has always been easy because I've watched my older brother do it my entire life. And it makes it so much easier when you aren't the only one. And I am so lucky to have him as a role model. Not only is he outspoken, he is better spoken than me and would probably be a much better podcast host. But somebody in our generation needs to make money and build some sort of safety net. That's the position that we get stuck in, right? At least I got stuck in. It's, do I want to make a lot of money and try to set my kids up so it doesn't matter if this world is too hard for them, that they'll always have something similar to what my mom has given my brother and myself. And I am so grateful for that. But it didn't shield me. This life still sucks. Like my life itself doesn't suck. I am beyond happy at this point, and especially because I'm doing what I love and what drives me. And I am working all the time, but I incorporate work into everything that I do. So even my entertainment, I'm watching things that are relevant and that I'm going to share throughout this podcast. Right now, it's easy for me to be happy with my life. I'm doing what I love and I'm trying to make a difference. But it wasn't always the case. And there was a time when I could have really gone either way. I had a couple years that were scary, even for me looking back on it. And I've been to so many funerals. I've lost friends. I lost a cousin. I lost a bridesmaid. This has to end. This despair, you can't shield your kids from it. I see my niece, who is just an amazing young lady and who is wicked intelligent. And I see the pressure that she puts on herself. And I know it's not coming from her parents. It's coming from society. She is 15 years old and I see the anxiety in her. What are we doing to the next generation?
In the next episode, I'm going to talk about what I consider the Kako journey. So really the last 5 years. And I've titled the episode, When the Universe Talks, You Shut Up and Listen, because I've really let meditation and the universe and what I know is right to guide me.
Kako, the social app. K-A-K-O. Kako, the social app. K-A-K-O. Kako, the social app. Kako rules. Kako, the social app. Billionaire greed. Kako, the social app. Destroying America. Kako, the social app. T-minus 7 years.